I'm standing by the window with coffee in my hand, watching two bailiffs escort my neighbor Daniel out of his apartment. His shoulders slumped, face pale, clutching a cardboard box containing what's left of his life. I take a slow sip and feel nothing. No guilt, no satisfaction, just the calm clarity of a task completed. He made one mistake. He thought I would play by the rules. He thought that because the law couldn't touch him, because the police said no crime has been committed yet, because society gave him the benefit of the doubt that he was untouchable. He didn't understand that when you terrorize my sister, you forfeit your right to civilized treatment. I didn't touch him, didn't threaten him, didn't break a single law. I simply dismantled his life piece by piece using nothing but patience, research, and the truth he thought he'd buried. Daniel Ashford moved into apartment 4B 3 years ago. Mid-30s corporate finance job. Tailored suits even on weekends, the kind of guy who nodded politely in hallways and never made noise past 9 p.m. My parents actually liked him at first, said he seemed well-mannered. My sister Emma was 19 then, studying graphic design, and she had this openness about her, this trusting smile that made strangers feel comfortable. And Daniel noticed. The first signs were easy to dismiss. How he always checked his mail exactly when Emma came home from class, how he'd hold the elevator and make small talk, how his eyes lingered just a fraction too long on her face. Our father joked that Daniel had a harmless crush, said it was flattering. But I saw something else in those eyes. Not admiration, but ownership, like he'd already decided she belonged to him and was just waiting for the right moment to collect. The compliments became more frequent and specific. He commented on her new haircut before anyone else noticed, knew which coffee shop she frequented because he'd happened to see her there, started leaving small gifts outside our door with notes signed a friend, even though we all knew who they were from. Emma tried to be polite because that's how we raised her, to be kind, to give people the benefit of the doubt. She said thank you, but kept her distance, stopped making eye contact, started taking the stairs instead of the elevator. And that's when his behavior shifted from inappropriate to disturbing. The gift stopped being thoughtful and started being invasive. He left a framed photo of Emma that he'd clearly taken without her knowledge. She was sitting in the park reading and didn't know she was being photographed. And when she saw it outside our door, she came inside shaking and locked herself in the bathroom for an hour. My father went to Daniel's apartment to have a man-to-man conversation. He came back 15 minutes later looking frustrated because Daniel had been perfectly reasonable, apologetic even, promised to back off immediately. But the next day Daniel was waiting in the lobby when Emma came home from class, not blocking her path, just standing there watching her walk past with this small smile like they shared a secret. She started coming home later, staying at the library until it closed, asking friends if she could crash at their places. I watched my bright, confident sister become a ghost who flinched at footsteps in the hallway and checked the peephole 5 times before opening our door. My mother suggested we file a police report. We did. The officer was sympathetic but clear. Daniel hadn't broken any laws, hadn't made explicit threats, hadn't touched her. The gifts could be explained as misguided attempts at friendship. Call us if he escalates, the officer said. And I remember thinking, how do we define escalation when my sister is already afraid to live in her own home? Then came the messages. He somehow got her phone number and started texting. Never anything overtly threatening, just constant reminders that he was watching. Saw you wore the blue jacket today. It suits you. Or hope you got home safe. The streets aren't safe at night. Emma blocked his number. He created new ones. She blocked those too, and he started leaving handwritten notes under our door, pages of rambling thoughts about destiny and soulmates, and how society doesn't understand real connection. I found her crying in her room one night, holding one of these notes, and she looked at me with hollow eyes and said, "I don't feel safe anywhere anymore." And something in me broke and reformed into something colder and sharper. If this story resonates with you, hit that subscribe button, leave a like, and comment your thoughts on where the line is between justice and revenge. Your support ensures stories like this continue to reach people who need to hear them. Now let me tell you about the night everything changed. It happened on a Tuesday evening in March. Emma was coming home from her evening class around 8 p.m., keys ready, phone in hand with emergency services on speed dial. Daniel was waiting in the stairwell between the third and fourth floor. Not in the lobby where cameras might catch him, not in the hallway where neighbors might see, but in the concrete echo chamber of the stairs where her voice wouldn't carry. He didn't touch her, he was too smart for that. He just stood blocking her path and talked, telling her he knew she felt the same way, that she was just scared of what people would think, that if she'd give him a chance, everything would make sense. Emma tried to go around him, and he moved to block her, not grabbing, just repositioning, and this dance continued for 3 minutes while she begged him to let her pass, and he kept talking in that calm, rational voice about fate and patience. She finally shoved past him and ran to our apartment, burst through the door sobbing so hard she couldn't breathe, and when she calmed down enough to tell us what happened, I saw my father's hands curl into fists and my mother's face go white. We called the police again. They came, took a statement, knocked on Daniel's door, and he explained with perfect composure that he'd simply been walking to his apartment when he encountered Emma and tried to apologize for previous misunderstandings. No witnesses, no physical evidence, no crime. After they left, I sat in my room, staring at the ceiling, and made a decision. The law had failed, social pressure had failed, reasonable conversation had failed, and I was done waiting for a system that clearly wasn't built to protect people like my sister. I wouldn't beat him, wouldn't threaten him. I would do something worse. I would erase him. I started with research. Everyone leaves a digital footprint. I found his LinkedIn, his company listing him as senior analyst, his marathon times, his restaurant reviews written in that same meticulous prose he used in notes to Emma. Then I went deeper. Public records, court documents, property filings, and I found the first crack. A sealed juvenile record from when he was 17 involving a restraining order filed by a classmate's family. I contacted that classmate through a genealogy website pretending to conduct background research. She was hesitant, but when I mentioned Daniel's name, her voice changed, got quieter and harder, and she told me about the letters, the following, the escalation that only stopped when her father threatened legal action. She gave me the name of another girl from college. I found her in Idaho, married with 2 kids, and when I explained why I was calling, she went silent before saying, "He's still doing it?" I collected testimony from 4 women across 3 states, all with the same story. Daniel fixated, escalated, then vanished when confronted, only to resurface somewhere new with a clean slate and a fresh victim. Next, I examined his professional life. Corporate finance is built on trust and reputation. I created an anonymous email to his company's HR and compliance officer asking questions. Are you aware that senior analyst Daniel Ashford has an undisclosed history of harassment complaints? Does this represent an acceptable risk profile? I attached public records and links to articles about corporate liability. I didn't lie, didn't fabricate, just connected dots that were already there and let them draw conclusions. The company launched an internal investigation. Daniel was placed on administrative leave. While he was professionally vulnerable, I contacted our building's property management with documented evidence of stalking, police reports, testimony from other tenants. I framed it as liability. If Daniel escalates and harms a resident, what does that do to your insurance and reputation? They served him with a lease violation notice, 30 days to cure or face eviction. Then I went after his social circle, identified his friends through social media, and sent each anonymously printed copies of his notes to Emma, screenshots of messages, letters explaining the pattern. Some ignored it, but 3 confronted him, and when he couldn't explain convincingly, they distanced themselves publicly. The isolation was systematic. Job gone, lease terminated, social network collapsed, all within 6 weeks. And the beauty was I never lied or fabricated evidence. I just shine a light on who he actually was. I ran into him in the parking garage on his final day. He was loading boxes into a U-Haul, suit replaced with jeans and wrinkled shirt, face unshaven, eyes red-rimmed. He saw me and stopped, And for a long moment, we stared at each other across oil-stained concrete. Then he said, "It was you, wasn't it?" Not a question, a statement. I didn't confirm or deny, just asked, "Does it matter?" He laughed, a broken, bitter sound, and said, "I never touched her, I never hurt anyone. I just wanted her to see we could be good together." And that's when I understood he genuinely believed he was the victim, that his feelings justified his actions, that Emma's fear was just a misunderstanding. I looked at him and said very calmly, "You took my sister's sense of safety. You made her afraid in her own home. You ignored every signal she gave you. And when the law couldn't stop you, I did what I had to do. You didn't break any laws, but you broke something more important. You broke her, and I made sure you'd never have the chance to do it to anyone else." He opened his mouth to respond, then closed it. And I saw the exact moment he realized nothing he could say would change the outcome. I walked away and didn't look back. 3 months later, Emma got accepted into a design program in another city. She's moving next week, and last night I helped her pack, and she was laughing, actually laughing, talking about her future with excitement instead of fear. She doesn't know the details of what I did, just that Daniel is gone and won't be coming back. My parents suspect, but have never asked directly. As I stand here watching the empty apartment across the hall being cleaned for new tenants, I think about justice and how it's supposed to work versus how it actually works. The system is designed for clear-cut cases, for crimes that fit neatly into legal definitions. But what do you do when the threat is real but invisible? When someone weaponizes social norms and legal gray areas to terrorize another person without ever technically breaking the law? You adapt. You think strategically. You use the same systems that failed to protect your family and turn them into instruments of accountability. I don't regret what I did. I sleep fine knowing Daniel's next victim, whoever she might have been, is now safe because I made sure his pattern became part of his permanent record. Some might call what I did vigilante justice, but I call it protecting my family when institutions designed for that purpose proved inadequate, and I'd do it again without hesitation. Emma is safe. That's all that matters. The rest is just noise.